Welcome to TRB Conversations powered by XCO. We are here at our Zuma studio, if you will, joined by Per Sandell. Per is the co-head of ads at Spotify. Per, welcome.
Cool. Brian, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having us in the beautiful space, and it's great to see you this week.
Okay, so let's talk about like ads at Spotify, because I pay for Spotify, right? Ads are a smaller part of the business. I mean, and that's like, you kind of want that these days. I mean, it's better to have like millions of people paying you, at least in my view. But tell me about like how ads are, how you're sort of evolving like, you know, the ads product at Spotify.
Yeah, awesome question. Great way for us to start today. And so, I think when I think about advertising at Spotify, it's really about a couple of things that we think about. One, it's how can we use this product and this time and this kind of information that we have to help us fuel the creator ecosystem that sits on top of it. And when we think about Spotify as a whole, I oftentimes think about it as the holistic product, right? Across music, across pods, across audiobooks. And if we think about that and we look at kind of what we've been doing over the last couple of years, last year we paid out a record $11 billion to the music industry. And part of that is a result of what our ads business and the growth that we're seeing across the consumer platform has been able to do. And so from our perspective, ads are a way that we can help fuel music, we can help fuel podcast creators, and we can make sure that everybody's being fairly paid for their work. And so I think from our perspective, ads are critical to our growth and critical to being able to have that backbone for creativity. Now, when I think about the Spotify ads business, we have been in, to borrow your term, a little bit of the rebooting as well, as we've been focusing on our ads business. And over the last year, we've really been focusing on how do we rebuild our technology stack to be built for Spotify. And so our teams, and a lot of credit to our product engineering design teams that have been working on this, but we've built out our own ad server, our own ads manager, an ads API. We've also built out a programmatic exchange that is hooked up to all the major DSPs that we call SACs, the Spotify Ad Exchange. One, it's a music acronym, it's ad tech. You have to have an acronym to bake it in.
Yeah.
And so that's really allowed us to bring our audio formats, our video formats, our display formats, and make audio for the first time significantly more accessible to the average advertiser that's out there across the ecosystem. And so for us, it's really one, how can we make these tools more performant, more accessible? And then can we take the kind of the inverse side of that coin and the financial side of it and use that to power growth for our creators? And so, you think about our product, we've got the relationship between free and premium. It's very symbiotic. We also have that relationship between how we generate revenue and then how we use that revenue to help grow our creator side.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have a long history in ad tech, right? So it seems like you guys are shifting a lot towards, more advertising being biddable, basically, through programmatic pipes. I mean, this is obviously, we're in Cannes, so there's a lot. Anyone who's not here, there are a lot of programmatic billboards here. There's a lot of ad tech companies. They have a lot of yachts in the harbor and whatnot, and obviously technology platforms are powered by programmatic, right? Tell me about how you look at changing like that, like from still going to be a sponsorship business for high touch and never done before sort of executions, but how important is it to move more of the advertising business to be programmatic?
Yeah, great question. And, I think from our side, what we really feel is that the programmatic system that we've built, both between our ads manager product as well as the ad exchange, it has the same supply, the same targeting information, all of that's there. It's a question of how you want to access it. What we've wanted to do with access for our business is make it easier for everybody to have audio. And I think if you look back at the history of audio-based advertising, one of the challenges that's been there is it's been really complicated to buy audio. It's like, you'd probably have to fax me an IO, I'd countersign it, I'd fax it back to you. We'd figure out how to record the creative kind of in a studio like this one in a much less beautiful location. And then we would ship that back to the systems and we'd upload it and then we'd traffic it and we'd send you a report. And that process had always put audio at a significant disadvantage to what the growth you'd seen from the social channels or from the display channels or from the video channels on OLV, because we just weren't present in these tools. And with our introduction, kind of the new technology that we've been building and releasing, we're able to be present and alongside that. And so you can compare with any measurement solution, whether it's our first party or your third party solution that you want to bring in play, how audio performs back to that channel. And, I think we oftentimes don't think about the power of audio and how impactful those products are. And so, if I was to tell you I'm loving it, what's the first thing that you think of?
McDonald's.
Cool. So later tonight, when you get that Big Mac on the way home.
Like, I'm not getting a Big Mac in France.
All right. Royale with cheese. But, from that perspective, one of the things that you're thinking about is like that ad is 30 years old and that memory is still there for you. And so like, what is the attribution window for audio is a really big question that I would have. And then on top of that, that ad itself, it was actually like sung to you as a listener by Justin Timberlake, and then that ad itself was actually written by Pusha T, the rapper who did the original creative, and he's gone now to write a ton of different ads for QSR brands. And so I think like music plus audio plus fandom plus this connection and that memory is so critical. And like we remember this ad 30 years later, and I don't know if you're going to have a favorite ad from this year alone, and you've got that opportunity to think about them, but audio has this staying power. And now that we're able to open up this access, you can access that same staying power for your brand in real time, in a method that you want to buy, in a way that you want to measure. That's really been our approach over the last year, is how can we just improve this product to make it so that everybody can see its impact?
Because that's what I always wonder when particularly technology platforms have a really big subscriber base, right? The ads product is kind of like an entryway to that. Like, as you say, I don't like experience most of the Spotify ads. I mean, some I do, but most of them I don't because I pay you guys every month. Like, and I happily pay you. Yeah. You're welcome.
First, thank you.
But like, I have, you're welcome. But I always end up wondering, like, are the ads being used just to like annoy people into subscribing? Because the LTV of a subscriber is higher than a free. Look, you're going to have you have hundreds of millions of users. Not all of them are going to pay you. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
But I wonder like how you think about that, because I always had some sort of conspiracy theory that like sometimes I'll say it was Pandora. I thought that Pandora was like optimizing to like when they could like really annoy me enough that I would subscribe.
Yeah. So I think this is actually a very fun moment in time to have this conversation, because Spotify this year, we just turned 20 years old.
That's amazing.
And
I'm
isn't
old.
it incredible? And so, we swapped your logo to a disco ball earlier this year, and I think we had a ton of fun doing that. But when you think about Spotify as a whole, this is one of the things that, like, as a product and a platform, it is something that has been with you for so long. And as we dropped kind of, that like version of rap that came out for our 20th anniversary, we were kind of telling you when you got onto Spotify for the first time. And like, I looked at it and like, I've been on Spotify for like 16 years. And when you think about that journey, like I was a lot younger then, I was in a different financial situation, and I did start as a free user, and I eventually upgraded to ads. And I think what we've wanted to do is make sure that our consumer experience can grow with you, and the features that we're building provide value for the stage that you're at and how you want to consume. And we've actually started to take this approach into ad products as well. And one of the ad products that we've released this year is a product that we call Sponsored Playlist. And what this allows us to do is give a brand the ability to take over one of our premier playlists that exists for a day. And that could be something like Rap Caviar, or it could be something like Discover Weekly. And what we do is we then kind of have and work with the brand and our creative teams to take over kind of that masthead of the area that can bring their brand images in, that can bring that engagement. And then throughout the playlist, instead of having that normal ad load that you'd have, we actually have taken the different approach than that, where we reduce the ad load. And we want to give back that value to the user because the brand is engaged with us in that playlist. And so we remind the user, as kind of the auditory reminders come in, that you're getting a reduced ad load because of this brand. And I think that, is a really compelling way to build products, because ultimately, if you're an audio platform, you want these users to engage, you want them to find moments that are magical, and if they're able to have a better consumption experience and a brand is able to generate that goodwill from a lift perspective and an incrementality perspective, that's one of the best ways to have impact with audio. And you can really both measure that and kind of how happy a user is on the platform and how much their fandom is and their re-engagement. But you can also have that approach of making sure that you're doing the right thing for that brand. You can really tell a story with that method.
Yeah. So on agentic, I go up and down this street here, this Quaset. This is the main drag of Cannes, and it's all agentic this, agentic that, and is this real? Not in the efficiency, back end stuff, but how much of the talk about agentic advertising is talk versus reality now? I'm not saying it will not eventually be true. Not that ad tech would ever talk about things before their reality.
I think we've both been in ads a long time on this one. But I think this is a great question, and what we've been really excited about is how quickly we can now build software. And so if I go back kind of the start of this year, and when I kind of got like really deep into it was like the release of Opus 4.6, and I'd been casually playing before that, but now from the Spotify perspective, a lot of our code is being written by these software agents, and so from a build perspective, we are writing just the vast majority of our code now agentically. And now when we bring that into the ecosystem of advertising, we've released a number of products this year already that are helping us move in this area of agentic buying or agentic discovery, agentic trafficking. And so we've got a CLI and a Codex plugin that we released, and we've actually open sourced these, which is really easy and makes it super fun for a brand or somebody to pull that off the shelf, fork it into their own code base and utilize that. But these agentic ways to buy, I think we're still very early in this journey. And from a process and a workflow perspective, something like a CLI plugin allows you to use natural language processing, transact directly from a command line. And we were first building these things kind of as internal tools to make ourselves work faster. And then we were using them with our internal marketing teams. And then we realized that we had to open source these to the community to allow other people to build on top of our tech, contribute to that code base, and move faster. And so we're starting to see a lot of adoption in this area, kind of with agentic solutions. We've also built a couple agentic solutions that live inside of our ads manager product. And so you can think of, kind of buying an ad in the old days, and you're in an ads manager, and I've built a lot of these, and you're clicking the drop downs, you're selecting the options. But we actually launched this week the ability to come into Ads Manager and just type in that audience that you're looking for. Okay. And then we automatically use LLMs to find, discover, and plan it into that way. And so that allows you to connect an LLM directly to the targeting and information backends that you have. And over the last year, we're about a year into this journey, we released a generative AI creative plugin that sits in Ads Manager. You can also leverage that on our programmatic exchange as well, where you can come in, you can type information about your brand, you can tell us who you are, your website URL, words to use. We're available in about 12 languages now with 100 different voices and background music that you can mix in. You should give it a try. It's actually like really fun to play with. And you can build these little ads, and it creates a 30-second spot. You can directly launch that immediately from our tools and tech. And it's free to use. And it's actually kind of fun to build a bunch of ads and allows for a lot more iteration that's across the board. And so, I think for us right now, we're at a stage kind of in that agentic area where we're focusing on the kind of the things that took a lot of time. And time from an advertising perspective is one of the scarcest commodities that many marketers have. Like I only have so many hours in the day. And so if I can use agentic solutions to plan faster, to execute faster, to do reporting faster, to make decisions faster, I think that's kind of the start of what we're seeing in the agentic universe when it comes to ads. The long-term approach as we start to make decisions with agentic software is going to be really interesting to see the evolution that we've seen of machine learning algorithms merging with what we're able to do now with LLMs from a technology side.
But it sounds like we're still a ways off from, okay, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, or better yet, the agent can like figure it out and be like, okay, you go out, and then the agent is going to do negotiations, and the agent is going to basically run the campaign.
I think we're still in very early days as an industry there. But we're still in very early days of artificial intelligence. And so I think it is definitely a reflection of where we are, where the technology is, and then how much compute we're able to use. And what we're seeing in terms of the advancements of the models on the back end, we can't be far away from a future where all of these things are technically possible. And I'm sure there's a couple people out there who are really pushing the envelope and doing some really amazing things. I'd love to see everything that's out there, because this is kind of the most exciting time that at least I've been in advertising to build.
So I think you and I are neck and neck, like 15 or 16 cans. A true can veteran can't name the number. It's like between two. They just basically ballpark it, right? So you've seen a lot. I want to know. We're both like gutter bar veterans. We're retired.
Retired.
We did
Very
we did our time at the gutter bar. Give me one quintessential can memory.
So I think one of the quintessential can memories that I have, and this is a good one, is it was a little while ago. So somewhere, I think in like the 5 to 9 year ago, no, probably like 6 to 9 years ago, 7 to 9 years ago, given COVID. But there was a party at one of the beaches, and it was the most popular party in town. People weren't able to get there, and somebody had actually swum up to the beach.
Oh, nice.
In order to get onto the party. And that was like, instead of waiting in the line and finding a way in, it swum up to the beach, they got on the party, and there was like, the security was trying to kick him out. And then eventually the security was just like, you know what, you put in this much work,
yeah,
you're welcome to come in. And I think that's kind of like my representation of CAN, which is like, every year we come here, we do hundreds of meetings, we meet all of our best friends here, we see the industry, but it's that work and that hard work and that effort that makes it worth it for you, that gets you access to the creativity that comes on top of it. So to me, that's like my quintessential CAN story.
Okay. Yeah, that's great, Per. I mean, that's what we call now high agency. That's a high agency move right there, swimming your way into the party. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.